how'd you end up meeting Gary Vee?
Yeah, that's a random story. I don't know if it's random, but so it was just like, it just everything lined up really well for me. How this happened was pretty out of the ordinary. So I went to see Gary at an event, as everyone does. I was really into going to events and seminars, and really important part of my journey was like those 2-3 years where I was going to events and seminars and really investing in myself.
You think the seminars are worth it?
Early on in your journey, yes. I do, because you need to rewire the way you think. You need to hear different ideas, different principles, how people have changed their life, different business models. You really need to. I should probably go to it more than I do now, but I've just kind of lost interest in that space. You know what I mean? What did I? Yes, okay. So I went to that. I had the VIP ticket, so we took photos with Gary and whatnot, and what they did, obviously, they called everyone up, that night after the event, and like, hey, there's this opportunity to do a dinner for Gary. It's probably like $5,000 or whatever. Do you want to do it? And I didn't do it. I've never really been one to really care much about celebrities or whatnot. Like, I think it's cool because like it's a bit of a, a milestone moment to have those. But like, I didn't really. I'm like, nah. Like, why am I going to drop $5,000 just on a dinner? But so whole next year went through, came around, and I remember thinking, why didn't I? It was just $5,000. Like, why didn't I go do it? What a cool experience to have dinner with Gary. He's the first person that I started listening to that really changed the perspective in my mind, hearing about, all these different business models and humility and empathy and hard work. And like one of the biggest things that he preaches is like hard work. People think that's all he's about. It's not, but it's like, it really changed the way I saw the world in business and saw opportunity. So I emailed them about a year after that. I said, hey, are you doing dinner with Gary again? I'll do it this time. You can count me in. I'd obviously made a lot more money by that point as well. So it was like, right at the start of business, even though we were successful already, I'm like, do I want to, drop $5,000 by the year round? That was obviously not a big deal.
Maybe you just weren't ready then, and that's okay.
I just weren't ready, but I'm so glad I didn't, because if I did it that year, I wouldn't have sent this email, which would lead to that. They said, no, we're not doing a dinner with Gary. That being said, he is doing this other thing he's never done before. Like, Gary doesn't do small group mentoring or anything like that. He goes and speaks in front of 10,000 people and charges $500,000 or a couple $100,000 for his speech, and he goes on his way. But he wanted to, for the first time, test like small group mentoring with 10 to 20 max. It could be. But it's a process you have to apply. There's several different stages, and then if you get through, you get to do 3 days in Sydney with Gary, 3 days in London with Gary, and 4 days in New York with Gary. So I'm like, yes, sweet, I'll apply. First, put in my application. They sent me the form, all the different parts about you and your business. First, it got approved by the Australian company that brought him out. Once they approved it, it got passed on to Gary V's team. Once they approved it, I had to do a phone call with Gary. And I remember I was in my office. This was when we were still out in Preston's in the suburbs. I get a call about 10 o'clock in the morning one day, and it was like a New York number. I just thought, fuck, this is so strange. I answered the call, and he goes, yo, what up, Dylan? It's Gary V. And I was just like, dude, that's crazy. Like, it's just crazy. I've listened to him on so many – I don't really listen to it that much really anymore. But at that point in my life, I was listening to his stuff every day for the 2 years before I started the business. Like on my commutes into that corporate job, I was listening to Gary Vee. It's like to hear him call me was just like a surreal moment. Then we chatted for about 10, 15 minutes. As soon as he heard my age, as soon as he heard it was like e-com was the niche, and how much money, like how successful we had been, it was like he wanted me there. And then obviously when I ended up going, like everyone was like 10 years older than me in all these different industries. So it was obvious why he'd be excited to have me as one of the groups. But yeah, by the time we ended up in New York, there's probably like 8 of us, and we're in Gary V's office. And there was a moment on the last night we were drinking. It was when he still owned Empathy Wine. We were having a wine in his office, and I just like looked out at the New York City skyline, and I just realized, and this goes back to the manifestation piece and law of attraction piece, in like, 18 months ago, I didn't have a business. Now I've made however many $1 million, tens of millions of dollars. I'm standing a meter away from Gary Vee looking at the New York City skyline, and it just made me realize like that nothing is impossible. Whatever you dream, you can achieve. And I didn't have money. I was a kid from the suburbs, didn't know anyone with business. And in less than 2 years, I'm standing a meter away from Gary Vee. I used to have like, a couple thousand in my bank account. Now that's changed. Like, it's just life. Like there's no limit to life. It's only what you think and what you can see. If you can see it and you believe it, you can make it happen. I guarantee you.
Bro,